Hello, my name is Dr. Vanita Cobb, and I am the Learning Specialist at the Brodsky Student Athlete Academic Success Center. In this video session, we'll be going over note-taking strategies. Before we delve into note-taking strategies, let's focus on different types of lectures that you may encounter during your time here. The first type of lecture is the organized lecturer. In this type of lecture, make sure that you copy the material from the board or print the PowerPoints before class so that you can take notes on your own. Make sure that you understand definitions and keywords before you come into class, and being prepared for class, make sure that you have read the material beforehand. When you're studying for this type of exam, make sure that you put everything in your own words, make examples in the margins of the information that's being presented during class. This is going to help you remember the information longer because it's in your own words. The next type of lecturer is the storyteller lecturer. In this type of lecture, the storyteller will present the information as if it's an interesting story. In order to take notes on this type of lecture, create an outline of your own so that you can organize the information before you get to class. During class, make sure you ask questions to yourself, such as, what is the point of this information? What is this illustrating? How does this fit with the big picture? Because in this type of lecture, it's very important to understand the main ideas. Ask questions during class if you're allowed to. This will help fill in the gaps and get more information on those main points, and then relate the ideas and definitions in the text to examples that are presented in class. The last type of lecture is the discusser. In this type of class, you want to always come prepared with your own contributions. Make sure that you prepare for class by reading beforehand and synthesizing the material before you arrive. Listen for cues about the value of ideas that are being discussed. Did your professor elaborate on a specific point or a certain topic? Make sure that you take notes of these types of indicators. It's also important to distinguish between main ideas and examples and to record your own responses to the questions that are posed by the professor. A lot of times professors will start off with this type of lecture by posing a question to the class. You might not have said your answer out loud, but you should write it down so that you remember what your response would have been. Compare the ideas that are presented in class versus the ideas and the keywords that you found in the text and see if they match. Now that we've thought about the different ways that information might be presented to us, let's think about note-taking strategies. As a whole, there are two different ways you can take notes, either passively or actively. In passive note-taking, it's almost as if you have a tube and the information just flows right through you and you're not really synthesizing anything. To avoid this, we're going to try to take active notes. Active notes are when you synthesize the information, you interact with the material, you put the information in your own words, and you find comparisons, you make contrasts, and you find different ways that you can apply the material. As you can imagine, taking passive notes does not help you in the long term. It's really associated with your short-term memory. You'll probably forget before the next test without reinforcing it. Another problem with passive notes is called the rigidity of access. If you study the information in only one form and it appears in another form on the exam, it's not likely that you're going to be able to take the original information and apply it in this new form. Be sure that you're thinking about the material and you're rearranging it into your own words to make it make sense to you. We have these two stages of learning, and we've got to think about the different ways that we're taking notes. The first stage of learning is the introduction of new knowledge, and this can be your passive notes. It's very possible that taking passive notes first is the best step to learning the material to start with, because once you've taken the passive notes, it's important to move on to the stage 2 of learning, and this is the reinforcement and integration of the new information with your existing knowledge. Stage 2 is active learning. You should be translating and paraphrasing the new knowledge into your own words, into your own organization patterns, and into your own outlines. If you focus on stage 2 in active learning and actively taking notes, you're more likely to remember this information in the long term. Now let's think about how you take notes. Do you put information into a formal outline, bullet points, a concept map, pictures? Do you take notes at all? I'm going to present you with Cornell note-taking method, but I have a disclaimer. This information in this format is just a suggestion and it's not your only option. I would suggest that if you do try it for about 2 weeks, because you'll be surprised that it actually works, but sometimes it takes 2 weeks to generally for it to take effect. Any new study strategy is going to take that long. So give it a try, and after 2 weeks, if it doesn't work, try something else. You'll see the note-taking template of Cornell Note-Taking Method. On the top left corner, there's an ID block. So you're going to put what class that you're in and put what the date is and who the lecturer was, because sometimes lecturer changes up, so make sure you know who and where you're getting the information from. At the top of the page, you'll put all the main ideas and any questions that you think the professor may ask on a test or on a quiz, any recurring themes or topics, and then what the emphasis of the class is for the day. Once you've gone ahead and done this, go ahead and take your notes in the main section of the page. After class, go ahead and summarize the material underneath the main notes section on the left-hand side in the margin and write down any keywords, key phrases, or any ideas that will help you recall the information later. Why do we use the Cornell Note-Taking Method? It actually can save you time. For every 50 to 60 minutes of gathering new information, you really only need to spend 10 or 15 minutes to review and summarize and making anticipated test questions. Cornell Note-Taking System has students taking active notes because you're synthesizing the information, and students who take active notes remember twice as much information for twice as long. The time spent taking these active notes, even though it may take you a little over an hour, the time that you're taking them is going to help you in the long run because you're constantly reviewing this information. Cornell Note-Taking Method can help you on multi-level reviews. You can review and reinforce the information each day before bed by going through your notes or right after class or right before class. You can also use Cornell Note-Taking Method to review the week's notes on the weekend. Go through and fill in any gaps of information that you might be missing and identify where you need to spend more time studying. Spend the whole week before the exam studying your notes and then a little bit beforehand using the information that you have on your summary page. Cornell Note-Taking Method helps you review very well before you begin. For your final review, sort the information, talk through your notes out loud, and sort the pages into 2 piles, either information you're comfortable with or information you're not comfortable with. Once you do that, take your time and spend most of the studying on what you're not comfortable with. Get the worst over first, and then once you've done getting comfortable with the uncomfortable information, go ahead and focus on the other pile. Make sure you integrate all the information before the exam. For additional resources, please visit the Bratsky Student Athlete Success Center. We make individual appointments for life skills, organization, pretty much anything you need. We also have video resources just like the video you've watched today. And we have private tutoring for content-specific needs. We hope to see you soon.